Hello and welcome to Recharge Wrestling. We're here to plug you into the world of professional wrestling. I'm Fisher and I'm joined by my co-hosts Keeney and Krusty.
Hello.
Hey guys.
All three of us here this week, so it should be a good one. Plenty of wrestling to discuss. No real news or anything this week. Nothing that we can be bothered to dive into anyway. Nothing huge. So we're going to go straight to our review of SmackDown and talk about what do you guys want to talk about from SmackDown?
Well, we should probably start with the start of SmackDown. And we had a mammoth 6-man tag between Imperium and the Brawling Brutes.
I was actually excited for once about a 6-man tag with that came out of nowhere. It's very rare that I get. I'm interested in 6-man tags.
Well, this is one that made
random.
sense, isn't it?
Yeah. This might actually be straight off the bat. Actually, this might be my top mark. I haven't got a top mark thing, but I don't think I preferred anything to this week. Actually,
It
was a banger of a match.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was so good. It was like opening SmackDown with an absolute treat. In fact, that's what I said on our chat. I said that you get a treat when you start SmackDown.
I was excited and it didn't disappoint. Sometimes when you tell me there's going to be a treat or something,
and then Nikki ASH appears. Yeah,
this was a real.
No offense. I just know you're not the biggest fan, so I use that as an example.
This was great.
Yeah, this was a great match, and like you said, it had purpose. And what I really noticed from it, more than anything, and why it's probably my top mark, is how popular Sheamus has become because of Clash at the Castle and the match with Gunther, and also maybe some of the stuff he'd done with Drew in the build-up to that.
Mm.
You know, he was massively over in the UK, which you'd expect, but a lot of the time, this then doesn't carry over. But Sheamus, I feel like it's carried over and it's brilliant. So that's it's my top mark because I feel like he's being used perfectly almost at the moment. And he could get a big babyface push out of this if it continues.
It's nice to see, isn't it? Yeah, and like you say, he's really over. I noted it down as well how popular Sheamus has become in quite a quick succession. I'm not too sure it quite works with Ridge Holland and Butch behind him. They're going to have to change that dynamic, I think, slightly. It looks like Butch is turning into Pete Dunne slowly, and I'm not too sure what they're going to do with Ridge Holland. I love Imperium being on SmackDown. The dynamic is just amazing. They slot in perfectly. It's just an amazing faction to slot into what was quite a weak show. So, yeah, really enjoyed the match. Really enjoyed the fact that they're there.
And it was like a no-brainer really to call up Vinci because him and Kaiser just work so well as a tag team. Some of their offense together is phenomenal, and like I think I actually gave a top mark to this before with Vinci's like catching someone in a suplex move he did. I think he did it to either Ridge or Pete Dunne, whichever one it was. It's impressive. He is one of like my favorite wrestlers to watch. It's mad to say, but I just love watching Vinci.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's got everything because he can fly around a bit and he's got the unbelievable strength. He's just in ring.
Yeah, I compared him to Cesaro in terms of his style because he's got that pound for pound strength and he can also do other bits and pieces. I think
probably with some more extreme high flying.
Yeah, maybe with a little bit more high flying style, but yeah, he
and he's bold.
All of these guys are great. I think Ridge still needs a bit of work, but other than him, I love the fact that, like you said, Pete Dunne is basically Pete Dunne now, just called Butch, but he's basically Pete Dunne. He looks like Pete Dunne. He wrestles like Pete Dunne. He's just got a different name. Now that's what I've taken away from this as well since the last the last couple of weeks in particular, since he wrestled Kaiser, was it on SmackDown? He wrestled, wasn't it? Yeah, since that, I feel like it's just basically been Pete Dunne, but with a different name. Which I don't mind if they keep the name. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
we got used to Gunther, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of I was thinking there's a lot of like maybe skid marks in the past, which I think Triple H is undoing a lot of them. I think maybe Butch was one that we skid marked. I think Fisher, maybe. I think me and you were a bit more accepting of it.
I did it a couple of times. So
yeah, and I just think there's a few things now that we have criticised in the past that Triple H is just going back on. He's just doing things his way, and he's really his feet are under the carpet now, and he's in full flow of Triple H now. And this, I mean, straight up bat, I don't have a skip mark this week because I just think it's all kind of too good for me. There's not really much I have criticism.
I do have one, but it's a nitpicky thing, so we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Anything? Well, there's a lot else on SmackDown. Should we talk about the main event? We saw Solo Sikoa at Clash at the Castle. And I'm glad they kind of had to, use this going forward. And we saw the main event of Drew and Solo Sikoa, which was a match. When they booked it, I thought, well, who are they going to have lose here? Because this is Sikoa's debut, and you don't want his debut in the Bloodline to be a loss. And you can't really have Drew lose either. So they did a karrion cross interference, which, isn't the best finish to a match, like a main event like this. But I mean,
it is intriguing for me though that Cross is attacking Drew, not going for the goals. The camera was a bit odd when it went all grey. Yeah, that was a bit skiddy.
I saw some people like that. So a lot of people didn't. I don't really like it when they do special effects for certain people and stuff. I'm not really bothered about that. But yeah, it was kind of predictable, the ending of that match. And there's a part 2 to why it's part of my skid mark actually. This match. But I'll get to the other part of it later when we talk about Raw actually, because it's related. But yeah, the match was okay, and I get why they kind of protect Solo and protect Drew here, because obviously it's Solo's debut, and Drew is just lost to Roman.
And I guess the other part of this is we saw the first real interactions of Solo Sikoa in Bloodline. No Roman or Heyman still, but we did see Solo and Sammy interact a bit, and I think we all predict Solo to eventually kick Sammy out of the Bloodline, or this to be the way for Sammy to leave. But there's no signs of that now.
No, I think they're gonna play this out for a little bit longer. I think people are entertained by Sami Zayn in the Bloodline so much that, a bit like when RK Bro first came about, that was meant to be a short-term thing. People loved it so much they ended up dragging it out. But I think eventually that is the end goal. I think obviously we'll talk about KO later, but he's definitely a babyface now. There's no doubt about it. So I think you position him to save Sami Zayn once, that he does get kicked out. But I think you can drag it out maybe a month or 2 more. Yeah, it depends when you want to take the titles off the Usos, because I think when it does happen, Zayn should win.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that. I guess what the other big thing from SmackDown is we got a #1 contender for Extreme Rules for Liv Morgan's title, a 5-woman elimination match.
This was so obvious who was going to win this.
It was too obvious, wasn't it?
It was so obvious. They even made the poster before, the Extreme Rules poster with Ronda Rousey on it. So that's how obvious it was.
It's a bit of a shame as well that they just allowed Ronda Rousey to basically absolutely destroy more than half of the SmackDown women's roster, including people like Lacey Evans in a matter of
Lacey's
seconds.
A very weird one. She hasn't been seen in weeks, and I thought they were I heard a rumor that they came on a repackage, because Triple H didn't like the gimmick, but she basically came out exactly the same and then got pinned.
Got destroyed,
so maybe they still are planning to repackage her, because he obviously doesn't see anything in her in this.
I hope so. It's just odd because you've had her in the past contending for championships, being quite an authoritative female wrestler, and actually being quite tough to beat, if I recall.
She was in the main event scene on Raw for quite a while against Becky.
And now she just gets absolutely squashed. I think it damages people for the future when you then come to use them.
You need to be careful who you put in these matches. Maybe like someone like Natalya, Sonya Deville, probably not much planned for those guys, and they clearly don't see much in Xia Li. I mean, she's already been pushed to the side.
That's such a shame.
And then there's Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans is the one
thing I did like was the fact that Sonya tapped out Xia Li.
Yeah, that was probably the best moment of the match, where Sonya and Ronda both had their submission holds in and both got a tap out at the same time.
Well, actually, yeah, I've not really. I'm just refreshing myself here. I didn't really like the match until where Sonya actually looked like she actually gave Ronda a slight go.
That was good, and it was well done as well when you consider what they had planned for Raw. I think that was important that they didn't, because if it had Sonya be eliminated straight away, and then she came out on Raw and challenged Belair, I'd have been like, well, this is stupid. But she actually nearly got the number one contender on SmackDown. Yeah, and ran Ronda Rousey quite close. So then when she came out on Raw, even though we'll get to it, I was a little bit disappointed it was only Sonya Deville because it was like an open challenge. Yeah. But I did understand the reasoning behind it, and at least it didn't make her look totally weak. If you compare both shows, I think it was all right.
Yeah, no, I agree. We also got the then Women's Tag Team Champions Raquel and Aaliyah have a match against Toxic Attraction. I guess my takeaway from this is, well, actually, we'll get to NXT later because maybe this isn't the case. But Toxic Attraction, are they being called up soon, or because this felt a bit weird for them to just have a match on SmackDown? I guess they don't have many tag teams.
Making up for the fact they got removed, it did make sense because they got removed from the tournament, didn't they?
This was meant to be the semi-final, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I guess it kind of makes sense from that sense. Also allowed Raquel and Aaliyah to seem a little bit more strong as a team, which we'll discuss on Raw why they probably needed to look a little bit more legitimate.
Yeah.
And get a win over.
Yeah, but, it makes sense. I would have just had this against like Nikki and Doudrop or someone.
I like the fact that
kicked off if it was Nikki and Doudrop.
I like the fact that they went back to it because Toxic Attraction were in the tournament and didn't lose. Yeah. I like the fact they went back and did the match because they should. That should happen more. In any wrestling tournament, or if someone's got a title shot. If someone when Rhea Ripley had the title match. And then she got injured, and then they just put someone else in, and she hasn't mentioned it since. That annoys me. Rhea should come back and be like, I had a title match. I want my title match. Do you know what I mean? So for Toxic Attraction, they didn't get eliminated. So they should be wanting a match. Did Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark didn't either, did they? At any point?
No, but they didn't actually wrestle on SmackDown.
No, so maybe they haven't got that case.
They got injured.
You could even do it with them, but I don't think
Toxic Attraction at least won a first-round match.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they did. But I do think a call-up could be coming soon for them.
I would have liked to have seen Mandy with them, especially with the belt. That would make them look a bit more legit.
Yeah, they haven't ever used Mandy since. They've used Toxic Attraction a couple of times now on the main roster. She's been mentioned on commentary, but she's never been with them, has she?
I just think it makes it just look a bit better having someone come out of the NXT title with them. Even with as a people who don't watch NXT, they see Mandy Rose, someone who the main roster fans know with a belt with them. It makes them just seem a bit more legit, I think. But there's probably reasons behind it why they're not showing her at the moment. So there's probably one other biggish. Well, big. It's not big. There's another talking point from SmackDown. Braun Strowman again. We saw him on Raw destroy everyone, and he destroyed the Alpha Academy here. Didn't have too much of an issue with this. It's just, for me, I'm already bored of Braun Strowman personally. I've lost interest.
I'm quite excited about what he's going to do. I just think he looks so much better than last time. Even the power bombs he was doing.
Yeah, he did do a pretty impressive power bomb
on Otis as well.
Yeah.
I just think
that was impressive.
Better physique Strowman. I don't think what he's doing is great.
But it's just characters just destroying people with no purpose. It's like, just give me.
I think it's just building up to something. I'm giving it time.
I would have been happy if we'd have seen Strowman come in and go face to face with Omos and had a feud of Omos straight away, and we'd be like, oh well, here we go.
You think they're getting rid of Omos?
Well, I don't know.
It's weird that he's on SmackDown. I know SmackDown obviously probably needed the star power more than Raw did at the moment, but it's weird on SmackDown because there's not anyone I think, he's an obvious person. Obviously, he might feud with Roman. I think Karrion Kross is an obvious person for him to feud with, but that won't be right now because of the Drew feud.
Gunther
potentially, yeah. I guess.
But you'd have to have him lose against Gunther.
Yeah, I'd be upset if he beat Gunther for the belt.
Yeah, he doesn't need He's one of those people that you put a title on him and it suddenly ruins.
You know what? I'd put him in a bit of a mini feud with Otis now. Now he's powerbombed him.
I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to start with some sort of Strowman Otis thing, which
and you could have Otis get one over by having
Gable
interfere and things like that. I think it could be quite a decent one just to set him up. But
Yeah.
I am pleased he's back. It's rare for me to say that. I'm pleased he's back.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad he's back. I'm not exactly looking forward to him tomorrow night.
Something
on
I'm not
SmackDown.
looking forward to, which is the use of Max Dupree. What having an 8-man tag, was it? We
Yeah.
had maximum male models and Los Lotharios. Why bother with Los Lothario? Why not put Max Dupree in the match?
Well, I think
like that.
Keeney, you tweeted about on our Twitter account about
there was
the digital exclusive. So this is the
Yeah.
thing that Krusty, you might not have seen this, but this might get you excited.
there was a digital exclusive of after the match backstage. I was going back on LA Knight. Max Dupree goes off like having a go at the Marseille and Mansoir, and then I think he says something like, it's time for a change. He said,
and then he says that you
indicates-
have to go for the day to get to the night. Yeah.
and he says, and walks
okay.
out.
And he says
Well,
night.
I recall
night.
you tweeting this
So-
now, but I didn't look at it because I
Yeah.
hadn't watched SmackDown
So-
at the time.
I think
so his
the purpose
involvement
of
was
this
minimal
may
on-
be
Okay.
SmackDown.
to
But
Well,
get
I was
him to
annoyed
turn
at the
back.
time, but now I know this. I'm no longer annoyed. But
Now it's
We'll
excitement.
see.
yeah, now I'm really excited because I am a big LA Knight fan. As
We'll see
if
what
you've been
happens.
around for a while, you'll know. But then again, this felt very older Vince McMahon, WWE, throwing loads of random teams together.
I
Just
think
have
that's why the Braun Strowman thing hasn't connected with me, because it just feels like it's exactly what Vince would do. If he had Braun back, he would just have him destroy people for no reason. Like, I feel like Triple H should be a bit more nuanced than he is usually with what he does. But this Strowman, and I think a bit here with, even Hit Row, since they come back, they've not really had much purpose in a mini feud with Mason Mansoor, but it's hardly, earth shattering from Hit Row.
The problem is we go back to the same issue of the Usos holding the belts.
Yeah.
It's
they've only got
causing
one-
issues because they can't beat the Usos, can they? But
No.
if you had 2 sets of belts, then you could have them in a feud for a tag title. There's not a lot of purpose. If there's no belt, if it's not a real hate feud, which you're not going to have when you just come in, what do you do? There's no tournaments or anything they could do with. I know you mentioned the other day on the AEW pod. There's too many tournaments going on. I think
AEW
WWE
there is,
needs more
yeah.
tournaments. Have a number one contenders tournament, tag tournament.
Yeah.
Get some different people. Even if you cross brand,
They're having the match again, aren't they, on SmackDown that they got interrupted when Braun interrupted it. They're redoing it on this week's SmackDown.
Oh, that
I
for
don't
night
want to
fan
see
on.
that again.
I know, and I don't think the
I'd
4
rather
teams
see
are the right
Braun
teams.
come in and destroy
if
everybody.
Braun destroys him again, I am kicking off.
I want
that's,
Braun to destroy him,
what
just so I
if-
haven't got to bother seeing it.
What if he comes in, but he comes in with a tag partner, enters the match, and then
LA Knight.
they win?
depends who his
that-
tag partner is.
That might work. 'Cause
Depends
then
who
it
his
would
tag
have
partner
been-
is.
Then his original
Is
plan
it
has a purpose.
Nicholas?
Yeah, Nicholas.
Yeah, not if
Nicholas
it's a kid,
at like 14.
not if it's a child. But yeah, there's potential that might actually be interesting. But yeah, we'll
It
see.
all depends on this. If he comes in with like Shanky, then I'm not interested. But we'll see.
Shanky and Strowman.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
That's the team we all want to see. Anything else on SmackDown? I think that's most of it covered from what I can see. But I know. Oh, there was a little bit with Ronda and Shayna. Ronda told Shayna to get vengeance.
Yeah.
That is definitely going for that feud, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Shayna and Ronda aligned soon, and I am all for it.
Definitely.
Where was Liv on here?
She was watching up in the stands in the 5-way.
Yeah, she was sat in like a up in
in
the
like in the
stands.
box somewhere with a drink, just like sitting around.
The
like,
thing is,
yeah.
when you have Roman not turn up at a show, you still think about Roman and you don't think that he hasn't turned up, apart from when he does it for a few weeks and I get salty. When Liv doesn't turn up, I think it's a problem.
Yeah, I think
I kind of forget about it. She needs to be there to keep the momentum going.
I think we see this a lot with these, and I've made this point a lot on AEW with these champions that have really underwhelming runs, partly because of their opponents, but partly because certain people just thrive with the belts. And I'm worried Liv hasn't really thrived with this title.
She needs someone like Becky to feud against. That's the problem.
Yeah, and it doesn't help her first feud with Ronda, who's clearly superior to her.
You need Sasha Banks. You need Becky Lynch. It's not fair. It's really crap who they've put against her. Ronda's a great wrestler. She's a terrible promo.
She's getting better now. I think the last few weeks, I haven't cringed as long as she's on the screen.
That's a great.
It's gone above a 1 out of 10.
That is, yeah. I haven't cringed at your promo, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at with
Fish's head's disappeared. Speaking.
Sorry,
he's really high. Here he is.
I moved my screen slightly.
Here he is. Should we move on to Raw then?
I think we should.
Yeah. But before Fisher escapes from the screen completely, so let's move on to Raw. What was your takeaway from Raw? I know you've got a top mark from Raw across here. I don't know if you want to go on to that or whether there's anything else you want to start
we go
with.
Straight into some positivity, I guess, since I've just been quite negative. So I got excited the moment I heard Johnny Wrestling was going to be having its first match on this Raw. I knew it was going to be great, and then I got even more excited when I saw who it was going to be against. This was very clever. So we had Johnny Wrestling versus Chad Gable. And this is my top mark just because it was just an incredible match. It went for a real decent amount of time. I think it was like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was 15, I believe.
Some incredible wrestling. And it was happening before Triple H, to be fair. So I think Vince had noticed, but it's great to have Gable finally noticed for how skilled he is.
Yeah.
Not just in the ring, but on the microphone as well. And these two just flowed so well. It was an absolutely fantastic match. The crowd got massively into it, considering a lot of them won't be huge Johnny Gargano fans. There definitely was some there, but it was just nice just to hear it getting really over.
I think it's a really good first match for Gargano, against one of the most solid workers on the roster. Just give him 15 minutes to go at it. I mean, that's, again, we talk about Triple H here, and that wouldn't have happened under Vince. He wouldn't have had a 15-minute match with Chad Gable, Johnny Gargano. He might have had a 5-minute one.
Wouldn't he?
Yeah. And also, I think it was on commentary, but I might be wrong. I might have just heard this on a podcast or something. But I'm sure on commentary they mentioned the history with DIY and Alpha Academy or American Alpha, that they'd had matches before.
If they did, then that's really
I
good.
may have heard this on a podcast.
But that's awesome.
Yeah, and it may not have been on. So anyway, that is still something to go back on. Is they had their history in DIY and American Alpha matches, so they've wrestled before. Because this felt like a fresh match, but I guess it is in a singles iteration of it.
Yeah, although it would have been about 5 years ago, would it?
Yeah.
It would have been ages ago.
I feel like they'd never. Yeah, it feels so long ago that I'd forgotten they completely crossed paths at all. So. Yeah, really good match, and like you said, Gable being used in this role, he's losing a lot, but it feels like he's so important to the show. He's always on. He's on SmackDown on Friday. Feels like he's everywhere, and doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean he's usually getting a promo. He's always having.
That's the thing.
Matches.
Otis doesn't do much, really, does he? He doesn't wrestle much, and he doesn't talk. Gable talks and then wrestles the matches.
That's exactly how I want them, though. That's exactly what I want from both of them.
Yeah, I think Otis maybe could wrestle a little bit more, but
I'd like to see him in a bit of a feud with Braun. I think that could be really good. They could both show off some serious power. Also, I liked the after angle to this as well. This sort of flows through the top mark, actually, because you then had Theory hit Gargano in the back after he'd won, so he didn't get involved.
Yeah.
And one is I think Theory is a perfect person for him to feud with. If you want someone to get over massively with the crowd and be supported, you put him against Theory because everyone hates him.
And they've got history, which they've spoke about again. They've spoke about the history.
Quite interesting, isn't it? And also the way this flowed into the next segment, it's quite rare you see somebody involved in one segment and then go into another, which I actually really like, because normally he'd hit him in the back, chat some shit, and then walk off the advert, and they'd have disappeared. I
Yeah.
love the fact that he'd hit him, and I don't know what happened to Gargano, if he got helped out or what, but he then ended up in the ring with Kevin Owens, which I'm quite surprised this didn't get a top mark. Just because it was,
do you know what?
absolute fire.
It was the first thing that we saw. I didn't have a plan for top mark. I just went with the first good thing we had, which was the 6-man. But yeah, this was insanely good. And it
If we give the top mark to a promo alone,
Yeah.
this promo from KO, I mean, he's always great, and he's probably my favorite wrestler anyway, but it was just so good, wasn't it? The passion behind it, the purpose, the detail of again, the past of 18 months ago not winning the title and all that kind of stuff that was in there. And he even referenced that he was also, because Theory's been handed everything. He also said that I was handed the Universal title, which did happen because Triple H
literally handed it to him,
Rollins and handed it to him. And I love that he went there. He went to that and of course. So
for people like us who have watched it all this time, that is great.
Yeah,
I loved that.
Yeah, I love it and KO's smart enough to know that the audience doesn't forget these things.
Owens just gets the industry, doesn't he? And also, just before you fish, I think we can praise KO, but I think Theory played his part in this so well because Theory's just such a
he's
knobhead.
Underrated massively.
Yeah,
his
facial expressions, his reactions, just spot on. I think the comparisons made before to the Miz. He is like almost the Miz levels of an annoying prick. He's just so good at it. Theory.
Yeah,
I think he is.
I think if it felt real
star now.
It really felt real. This promo, the things they were saying about Theory is true, but I don't think they would say it if they didn't think he was good and amazing in that role. If it was true for the sake of true.
But then I think you also believe that Theory thinks that he's just but I was handpicked by Vince, so why should I
God's
care?
Gift.
Like you think you can believe
clever.
Theory thinks he's God's gift. I think this, as a pairing, this is bang on. And like you say, Theory's, because he had a thing with KO last week as well, and I think they've got a match for next week. But he's in a feud with Gargano, so Theory's
everywhere again. He's
I like it when they do cross like feuds.
Yeah, and actually, Kevin Owens mentioned Gargano a few times.
I was going to. That was the other bit I was going to say about the promo.
Loving Gargano.
Was that he really put over the new guy?
Yeah.
I made sure me and Johnny Gargano are 1 in a million, not just me. Me and Johnny Gargano.
Yeah,
and Gargano got a good reaction from the crowd here, but it made everyone realise, okay, if Kevin Owens is saying that about him, he must be a big deal.
He is really engineering this so well.
Yeah,
the way they are building these characters, and I just can't get over how much heat Theory gets, and it is completely on purpose. They have done this so smart, and anyone who thinks everyone hates him, but they should like him. No, they know exactly what they're doing. And I just loved this whole, from Gargano versus Gable all the way to the end of this promo, was just an incredible segment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're spot on there. And we actually ran a poll on Twitter this week before Raw, just to kind of get a feeling of what people were most looking forward to on Raw, because there was a few segments. One of them was Gargano's debut. One ended up being the main event, we'll get to in a minute, but the other one was the women's tag team title match, which was announced. And actually the main event, which is Edge and Dominic, won the vote as the thing people were most looking forward to. Then I think it was Gargano, and then third place was this women's tag team match. But we'll start with the women's tag team, and we have new champions. I guess not much surprise in the air when we saw Damage Control win the belts, but a good match and just the right result. And I'm looking forward to them having a little reign now with the belts.
Yeah, finally. It does make you wonder why they didn't just do it in the first place. But
I think it's just because of that match at Clash at the Castle.
Yeah, maybe.
Wanted to make that have a purpose, really, didn't it?
But Damage Control have been booked, other than that defeat, pretty flawlessly. And
Yeah.
I love them, and I think they're great, and I'm glad they won. I think it brings a real prestige to that title now, because they feel like that they're on the show 2, 3, 4 times a show. They're not going to not be on TV. They're not going to be. I mean, Raquel and Aaliyah were doing double duty as well. To be fair to them, but they're just
they've been everywhere. I want to see Damage Control on SmackDown. I want to see him. I love to see him go to NXT and start some stuff there. Do a Damage Control Toxic Attraction feud with Mandy and Bailey involved. You could have some good stuff. I just want to see them everywhere. We saw this with Sasha and Bailey when they were champs, and there's probably been a few others that have done it as well. But I know there's tag teams on NXT as well, the tag team titles. But I just want to see these. I just want to see them everywhere. They're one of my favorite things in WWE right now is Damage Control. I just think they're brilliant. And
absolutely.
So glad.
And obviously we're getting Bailey v Belair at Extreme Rules, so they could possibly be all draped in gold. Yeah, possibly. We will see.
Although I don't know if that's a good idea when you have the Bloodline with all the gold. It just seems a bit
I guess it's a different show, and it's a female stable, so it's a little bit different. But I understand where you're coming from.
Similar premise, isn't it? Before we get on to the main event, which I keep referencing, we mentioned it a bit already, but Bianca Belair had an open challenge, answered by Sonya Deville off the back of her impressive performance on Friday. And again, an all right match, and Belair retained. I guess Belair needs wins because she's lost the last couple.
Yeah, and
Belair.
I know Krusty was saying sort of like, the women's title has been ignored a little bit, and it's true because she was involved in that 6-woman tag. This at least now it gives a bit more.
Start to build some
she had a
momentum.
singles win after being pinned at the pay-per-view as well. So she needed to build a bit of momentum.
Strange, because at one point she wasn't ever out the ring, Belair. She was wrestling every week, wasn't she? Maybe she needed a little bit of a downtime.
I do think sometimes not having a champion. Obviously, you want your champions on the show every week, but maybe you don't have them wrestle every week because
it just felt like she again. If you compare Belair the last couple of months to Roman, Roman's not been on the show much, but everything around him feels relevant. Belair has felt like a complete backseat. She's run out to help people. She's sat on commentary now and again, but it's just not given me the buzz around the title that I want, which I had around SummerSlam, WrestleMania. That's when I think opponent really makes it, doesn't it? I mean,
well, I think she's got the right opponent now. I think Belair Bailey is that's a feud I want to see.
Then this is where it's going to build, isn't it? And I'm going to get excited for it again. But it's good. It's referring back to SmackDown again. It's going to make the feud between Liv and Ronda just seem crap. I really can't see. This is going sporadic, but just in my head has just appeared. Ronda versus Liv. How do you get Liv to retain that title? Shayna gets annoyed by Ronda constantly saying you need to be savage, this, that, and the other, and then you basically have a scene of her choking out Ronda saying you wanted me to be savage. This is what it's become.
That could happen.
Liv retained, and then you have that awesome feud. Sorry to skip over there. No, way overexcited. I want to give something to the women's division.
And I mentioned earlier about Liv's reign not seeming too special, I guess. Without thinking of another word, but you're right. The opponent is everything. And if you had Bailey against Liv right now, maybe Liv would feel a bit more relevant, or a bit more special, or like say Becky, or even
Sasha.
Like a Sasha, even a Charlotte. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Charlotte wouldn't work, but I just think she's just not been in the best spots, Liv, and Belair's been a bit off for a little while. Probably since a Becky feud, which I know is SummerSlam, probably last time Bianca felt proper relevant. But this is a match I'm looking forward to big time. And I think this won't just be a one and done. I think we're going to see a few from Belair and Bailey because it feels really fresh to me. Yeah. I'm sure they've wrestled before.
They did have a feud on SmackDown when Bailey was the SmackDown Women's Champion a while back. But obviously a while back because Bailey was injured for a long time.
Yeah.
When Belair first won the SmackDown title before she feuded with Sasha, I think it was.
Yeah, fair enough.
Can we talk about Dexter Lumis?
Oh yeah. Go on then,
I
Fish.
didn't know if you were going to move on to the main event, but there's a couple more things yet. So Dexter Lumis, I thought we needed to talk about this. I don't know what to make of this segment because it's an interview with The Miz, and the interview itself was fine. You get a little cameo from his kids and Maurice. Maurice is basically telling him there's nothing to be worried about. You can tell when Miz is scared. You can see Dexter Lumis sort of peering through his windows in the background. Then they go out and Dexter Lumis gets in and just plays the piano. A couple of questions. Who's looking after the kids? Because Miz is just left in there with Dexter Lumis. Which is a bit weird.
Maybe the cameraman.
Free babysitter.
The cameraman had been babysitters.
I know it doesn't really matter, and I know but Dexter Lumis is the weirdest babyface of all time. He's literally a serial killer.
Do you know what? This is weird, and this is the sort of thing I would not like, but I love Dexter Lumis. I don't know why it is. There's something about him I just like. I
think he plays his role brilliantly. I just felt that I've liked the stuff they've done up until this point. This was a bit weird. I just think this is just like so illogical.
Yeah, it is.
I know it's not meant. I know it's not meant to be overly logical, but it did feel a bit silly.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit silly, but I just enjoy it. I don't have anything else to say. I just really like it, and I really enjoyed this personally. I found this great. I just like say like the little again. You don't get that sort of thing on wrestling TV very often where he's just peering through the window and it's like little subtle things. It's not too obvious, but like just spot about corner of your eye in a window and then come back and he's not there, and it's like
that bit was okay. It was more the end bit when they go out and then he gets in somehow, even though they said they got security. Then they don't take the kids with them, which is a bit weird. And then I don't know. It was just a bit strange.
Yeah, that was odd. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we go to the main event? I mean, I know we had the opening match, which Balor and Riddle.
Yeah, and then obviously you had Rollins' involvement in that in the promo that he opened the show with. So I think that was probably worth mentioning. And then, Riddle, they're still not arranged the rematch. Obviously, it's going to happen.
It will happen at Extreme Rules, won't it?
It will happen. It will, yeah. But Balor's promo, he made some weird references, which everyone does to Riddle, I suppose. But this was all okay. The match was good.
Quite a good match.
Yeah.
And again, we're intertwining people with feuds. So Riddle's got a feud with Seth. Balor's in the middle of a feud with Ray and Edge. I did find it odd
the Judgment Day came out.
Yeah,
I mean it was cool.
But
random, wasn't it?
Again, it didn't. It kind of works though. I think we're all fans of these intertwining of feuds, and just you don't need
also,
to be.
I love the fact they mentioned Priest and Rhea history with Riddle, because they are like real life best friends. Those three. I've seen them hanging out loads, Riddle, Priest, and Rhea. And obviously, Priest and Rhea being in the Judgment Day, trying to get Riddle to join. And Priest pretty much said that, because he was like, we get way back, we're friends. So even though they're not friends on the screen, it would make no sense. But in real life, I quite liked that as well, that they went after Riddle. It kind of makes sense. Although, if Riddle did actually join the Judgment Day, that'd be the weirdest thing ever. But he's clearly not going to. So
it would, but then, Dominic Mysterio is a bit odd, but that could be our segue to the main event, where we had Dominic and Edge again, who would have said Dominic Mysterio would be main event in a Raw a couple of months ago, but here he is. But it makes sense though, because of the storyline, and this match felt quite big. Like I said, it won our vote for the most look forward to thing announced for Raw, so people were into this feud. The first Dominic match since he joined the Judgment Day. What did you guys make of it? Make of Dominic, I guess is the question.
I think this is the right thing to do. If you want to give him a good chance of going on his own, turning him heel first was the right decision. And then who else? We put him in a main event of Raw with Edge. What an opportunity this guy is having. Yeah. If he doesn't make it of himself now, then he's not destined to, is he?
His
and
promo
I thought it
was a bit weird.
Match. I thought he really helped. Sorry.
I said his promo earlier in the night was a bit weird, but the match was good.
We had Rhea in his ear.
It's weird, but I think that's the way they're making him, aren't they?
He feels a bit like a puppet, doesn't he? I guess that Rhea's controlling. that's what essentially what he is. And I actually quite enjoyed Ray as well. Like, not again, Ray's not against his son yet. He's still like, oh no, yeah, no, he's fine. Like, you know, I can talk him out of it. You know, don't do it, Edge. Ray's still sticking up for his son a bit, and that's what would happen. You don't Ray doesn't have to turn on his son straight away. So,
and I spoke about how they prolong this the other week. This is how they do it. So you've now got Ray is still defending his son, and Edge has just been absolutely destroyed at the after angle of this match. I don't know how many times this has to happen to Edge before he goes, you know what, I'm not going to bother anymore. I'm sure this guy's been destroyed by chairs.
He's got so many chair times.
Yeah, he has. And so this is the second part of my skid mark.
Oh, God, here we go.
So the match itself isn't, the angle afterwards I thought was really good, but you know, it's the correlation between the end of SmackDown and the end of Raw. Both main events being DQ finishes, I don't think is a good look going forward. I know they're good angles and there's reason behind both of them, arguably, but I sighed when I saw it more because I was a bit annoyed when it happened on SmackDown, but I can understand it because Solo and Drew, I got that. But to me, Edge should have just beat Dominic here, and then you do the beatdown afterwards to regain sort of Judgment Days.
I think it allows for another rematch, though, doesn't it?
It does, but I just didn't like back to back. If they'd have waited and done it like 2 weeks' time and done another DQ main event, I probably wouldn't have been bothered. But it was just because I remember thinking about the SmackDown main event being a DQ, and then this one, and I was like, "Come on."
The thing is, I used to care about things like this, but I think in Triple H's WWE, I'm not getting the shitty roll-ups every 5 seconds. I haven't had 2 other DQs that night.
No, you're getting good matches with good finishes until that. To be fair.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think he's allowing enough on other weeks. We're getting proper wrestling.
Like I said, it was a bit of a nitpick. It wasn't something I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. But it was something I noticed and I wouldn't want to happen.
Now, don't we?
I wouldn't want it to happen very often, put it that way.
No, if it happened 3 weeks in a row or something, then yeah.
Yeah, because they haven't done loads of DQ finishes, but they've done them in matches where I'm like, well, why did you bother booking the match then? If you're just going to...
This has surely got to put Edge off TV for a while. I think he'll miss Extreme Rules. He, as I said before, his contract's only for like 4 to 6 matches a year. He's not... I don't know, he's obviously changed it, but he wasn't due to have this many matches. I guess
he has wrestled a lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you never got him wrestling on Raw and SmackDown at one point.
Yeah.
Now it's quite frequent, isn't it? Which is a treat.
Yeah,
but
it's good
it
to
does
see.
make you think, how long can he keep that up for? But yeah, really enjoyable. Really enjoying this storyline. Finally, Dominic has a purpose, I feel, and Ray's still hanging in there as well, which is just awesome. Absolutely, and Edge is just phenomenal, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, love everything about this.
Yep, I agree. There's 2 other little things from Raw. I'm just going to mention. If you have any thoughts on them, just let me know. We had Omos win a squash match, a 2-on-1, and we had Seth and Lashley set up for the US title next week. Any thoughts on either of those?
I'm afraid Fisher's fears may come true. I can't see Seth losing cleanly to Bobby Lashley. I can only think this is going to be a DQ.
Riddle get involved.
Riddle get involved. Seth hitting Lashley with a chair, something like that. You can't have it either way unless they weirdly want to stick a belt on Seth now. But I just can't see him doing that the way they've been building Lashley.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
So I don't know. Fish, do you think it could end up in another skiddy DQ?
I think there'll be I think Riddle will cost Rollins the match. I don't necessarily think it'll be a DQ. I'll be annoyed if it's a DQ. I would have Lashley win, but with Riddle interference, and him costing. And that's what that story makes sense because Seth's been refusing a rematch, but that's going to push Seth to go, I want a match with you now because you've just cost me a championship.
Yeah,
gives Seth a reason to want to fight Riddle because at the moment he's just like, why would I fight you? I beat you and you're a loser.
Also potentially gives the chance for an opportunity for Seth to rematch Lashley down the line if they don't find any gold for Seth, because I think he needs a title within the next 12 months. He has to get something.
Yeah.
So
100%.
maybe he then goes for Lashley next year if there's nothing else for him to do. Yeah.
Cool. I guess.
What was the other thing? I forgot.
Oh, it was Omos.
Oh,
Do you have any thoughts on
yeah,
Omos winning the squash
I
match?
forgot about that already.
No, I mean, he was back after quite a long absence. He's been on, I think this is only his second appearance since Triple H has been in charge. And it was just the same as the first one. It was just a squash match for him. You know, I don't really think they've got much plans for him. I've heard they've got no plans at all for Veer at the moment as well, which is obviously two of the guys Vince was kind of pushing. I know there's been a couple of other people. I mean, AJ Styles, I think, hasn't been on Raw for 2 weeks, which is weird.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if he's having some time off.
Him.
I think Ziggler's not been on for a couple of weeks. People like Ali have disappeared again. Like,
This is the
they've
problem.
got a lot of. The thing is, with bringing the new people in, is you are going to get this a little bit. But if they can rotate the talent and keep them all happy, then I've not got a problem with them keeping it fresh.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you mentioned about Edge being off TV. Who are the Judgment Day going to be attacking if they're going to prolong this race story? They need someone else to attack. So maybe you throw someone like an AJ Styles in for them to. Although they've kind of done that in there, AJ Styles. But there's something you can do. You can throw someone in Judgment Day for the time being story. And
I think the story is just going to continue between Ray and Dom now, really.
The Judgment Day got to have matches, haven't they?
You could have. I think they should go after. Rhea should go after a female person because Rhea hasn't. Although she's done the stuff with Dom and it's interesting, she hasn't actually wrestled in a while. Unless
No, she hasn't actually. Yeah.
The only other way you can do it is you bring Beth in to like on Edge's behalf, and you do Rhea versus Beth at Extreme Rules.
Yeah,
I could see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. Should we go on to NXT?
Right, I'm going to drop out. Enjoy the rest of your podcasts. I hope you loved Krusty and enjoy Fisher and Keeney. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
See you later.
Okay.
Right.
Let's start with the opening match with NXT Tag Team Title match, where I think the stipulation was chosen by the
so it was a steel cage
crowd. Yeah, steel cage match. What did you make of it?
The match was good. I thought it was quite predictable. Pretty Deadly were going to win because they only won what would have been the point of them winning last week. I kind of liked the clever spot with Kemp getting involved in handcuffing Julius, and obviously that led to the finish of the match.
Yeah, I think they booked this one really well because I think Creed brothers still look quite strong even though they lost here because one of them was handcuffed to the top of the cage and he still managed to beat one of them up at one point. I can't remember which member of Pretty Deadly he attacked, but he beat one of them up. And also, Brutus actually kicked out of their finisher once whilst he was handcuffed to the top. So it makes Brutus look quite strong for kicking out of their finisher.
Yeah.
But then couldn't kick out of it a second time. And I think they prolonged the Damon Kemp feud. They've kept the belts on Pretty Deadly and they've made Creed brothers look strong all in one go. So I think they've booked that perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think Julius in this match has some great spots again. He's really
is phenomenal.
He's
Julius,
really shining. Yeah, he's great. Not a lot else to say about it, but yeah, obviously they're going to get revenge on Damon Kemp at some point, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Keeping on the title path, we had a Toxic Attraction promo, which interrupted by Alba Fire. So we're finally getting her against Mandy Rose, which feels like the person to beat Mandy, doesn't it? I think Alba Fire feels like she's the only one, in my opinion, in NXT, I think, can beat Mandy because Mandy's beat everyone else. Like I would have said a Cora Jade or Roxanne Perez, but she's beaten both of those.
Yeah, I've sort of said it. I think Alba Fire should get it purely because I think she needs a run with the title soon, and then I can see her joining the main roster at some point. I'm very happy with this direction. I think it makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
it does. And move on. Something else that made sense. Actually, I predicted it last week. Was Joe Gacy was the teammate of Cameron Grimes.
That was a good shout.
without he didn't want it originally, but then in the end,
how good did they look when they tagged together? By the way, I thought their moves like meshed together pretty well.
Yeah, I think they might go with this. It's a weird one. I don't know whether you have Grimes, or didn't they attack him after the match, didn't they? Gacy.
Yeah, because he wouldn't join.
Yeah,
so they asked him to join, and Gacy went for the hug, and then Grimes was like no, and then they attacked him. But I think eventually he's gonna just be like, if I can't beat him, I'll join him.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they might.
And what I'd like to see is him kind of, because he's quite different. He's kind of like more like the grizzled young veterans old style. So I'd love to him eventually like kick Joe Gacy out of the group and then bring them back as like GYV with him or something.
Yeah.
Something like that would be cool, because I don't like the Gacy schism gimmick much anyway, especially on Zach Gibson and James Drake, because I don't like what they've done with it.
It is a waste of Zach Gibson right now, definitely.
Yeah.
In this current role, but a defeat for Tony D'Angelo, who was quite high at one point, and now he seems really like, mid card.
Yep.
Tony D'Angelo, someone who seemed like one of the top guys for a while. I'm going to leave the main event to the end, I think.
Yeah. That was pretty noteworthy.
Phenomenal. We got a debut of Quincy Elliott in the ring.
I've been looking forward to this one.
This was a memorable debut. I will remember this from Quincy Elliott. Very different, very interesting.
Really like the presentation.
Yeah, really impressive.
Unique character. Yeah, I'm all for this. I thought it was very interesting and very good.
I got a lot of Goldust vibes.
Yeah, Viscera as well. He's dressed like King Viscera. I've seen the comparisons. There's a lot of comparisons.
His mannerisms are very Goldust. I was like,
there's definitely bits of Goldust, bits of Viscera, little bits of maybe Velveteen Dream have taken as well. Yeah. There's a lot of these style of these kind of camp over the top wrestlers, but I love it. It's really, really cool. And I thought he looked decent. What we saw in the ring was quite a quick match, obviously. The Sean Gallagher guy he beat up looked like the most generic wrestler of all time, by the way. Name as well.
Like, I know.
That was quite funny. It was a good presentation.
It was. We had Hank Walker beat Javier Bernal.
When this match was happening, I was like,
I don't get this match.
Cares? However, Hank was quite over here. I think people just liked the security guard winning, and I thought he looked all right, to be fair.
Yeah, this is one of the weirdest matches.
On digital exclusive that Shawn Michaels is handing him a contract to be a wrestler. Okay. So that's just their way of bringing him in as a wrestler, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't really have a problem with it. It's just like when I saw this match, especially on a 1-year anniversary show, where you're kind of making everything a big deal, I was like, why on earth is this happening? I've never seen Javier Bernal before, let alone Hank. So
I know. Yeah.
I was just like, if it was against an established, if it was like Grayson Waller versus Hank, because he's like the same cocky kind of heel, then I'd have been like, okay, I get it. But yeah, the fact it was Javier Bernal was odd for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. This was a match when it was booked. I was like, why should anyone
maybe you don't want
match?
Grayson Waller losing to a security guard? So I kind of get that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a different way to bring someone in. Fallon Henley beat Lash Legend. Not much on this one, but I thought she looked really good, Fallon Henley.
Yeah,
and she's someone who impresses me more and more I see her.
I like Fallon. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Lash, to be honest, but I'm glad Fallon won quite quickly and clean here. I mean, Lash Legend obviously had a bit of a thing with Wendy Chu later on, so I think they're moving on to that with her.
Yes, it looks like finally Wendy Chu's moved on from Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah, that had to end.
But went off way too long. Zoe Stark and Nikita Lyons, they've kept them as a team in NXT, and they beat Kiana James and Ariana Grace. Again, not much on this one.
No, there's not a lot to say about a lot of these matches. Again, considering it was kind of the year anniversary, there wasn't a lot going on.
No,
that match was okay, and Nikita obviously got a trademark pin in. So
yeah, exactly. I was going to mention a few backstage things and just comment on anything you thought was interesting. We had some Cora Jade promos, nothing special. JD Madonna had a promo whilst being shaved. That was a bit weird.
Yeah, his promos are really weird.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure on what he's doing yet. A little square off between Von Wagner and Sanga might be quite a cool match. Two big guys, could be interesting.
One of the Valentina Perez or Lucy
Valentina Perez is out for
which
like
obviously
9 months.
a shame for them because I feel like the one
Yeah,
that's not
they're
injured
quite a
is
cool
going to
tag
get
team. Yeah,
the one that's not injured is just not going to do anything. I feel, and that's it's always disappointing when that happens.
yeah, that is a shame. Sort of Tyler Bate wants a rematch for the title. We had the Schism, Jump, Anofi, and Blade. So they're going to have a tag team match next week, I guess.
Yeah, we had also a couple of introduction videos. One for I can't remember the girl's name. I don't think I got the.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
I didn't know who she was. But
no,
I did
Surfer,
write
isn't
down.
she? Yeah.
Yeah, the one I did write down was Oro.
Sol Ruka is the female. Sol Ruka.
Sol Ruka. The male is it Oro Mensah?
Oro
Mensah. Oliver
Mensah.
Carter, isn't it, from NXT UK?
Yeah.
So he's not been released.
He's good, Oliver Carter or Ori Mensah.
That'll be interesting. There's a lot of NXT UK guys coming in.
Yeah, there is. There is a lot of NXT guys. I think that's a it's at a point now. I think NXT. I think a few need to move up now because it's quite a big roster now. NXT.
Yeah.
When you consider we didn't see Axiom or whatever his name,
Fraser.
There's like just people we didn't see on this show. We got very little bits from people like Bate and Madonna and Breaker, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez. There's a lot of people that have got very little, very minuscule bits on the shows, and the show was stacked with other talents as well. So the roster's so big now. I think it's time for some to move up. So we'll see what happens with that regard, and maybe that brings us on to our main event because it was for the North American title. It was a vote again. Again, the options were a bit weak, weren't they? Wesley, Von Wagner, and Joe Gacy. Pretty weak options to fight Carmelo. Wesley won the vote.
I understand why now, though.
Yeah, probably predictable. But I wasn't expecting them to just take him out backstage. And even then, I thought, well, Wesley's just going to come out fighting in the main event. He's going to put an effort up and he's going to lose. That's what I thought was going to happen in the main event. I thought Wesley's still going to fight, but he didn't. And instead, how surprised were you when we saw Solo Sikoa?
And I love it because he's now going to go to the main roster, being a Bloodline, and that's another title for the Bloodline. And it also, Sami Zayn again now is the only member of the Bloodline without a title. So that can go into the storyline. They can use this for the main roster storyline of like kicking Sami Zayn out. So I thought this was genius. Plus, Solo Sikoa did say he wanted next when he was on NXT.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
and he said that. And I just thought, wow, not only is that continuation, it's continuation main roster and NXT booking like coming together. So
what do they do with Solo Sikoa as the North American champion?
Well, I guess it's going to be on NXT as well. I'm guessing.
Double duty. Yeah.
I don't think he'll be on like every week, but I think he'll defend it and probably, I guess, maybe lose it soon. But I don't know. Maybe. It's going to be interesting. Another
really good match as well. I mean, Carmelo does not miss, as he says all the time, but he doesn't miss with matches. Carmelo, I've never seen a bad match. I don't think Carmelo. Brilliant match, this one. And I had a point which I've just forgotten. Oh, no, yes. The Bloodlines. What I think they should do, and I'm not an advocate for 24/7 title, but Sami Zayn.
I've seen Sean Moss.
Sami Zayn should go for the 24/7 title. That would be amazing. And can you imagine if he won it and then like the Bloodline all out of their belts, Sami Zayn's holding his 24/7 title,
and he thinks his is like his.
Yeah,
is
and he thinks he's like equal with everyone.
Yeah,
and like he's just.
I don't mind that idea.
I think that is amazing. That's the best way, and also he could just hold it because who's going to attack the Bloodline? Like Akira Tozawa. So I think that is the perfect.
And that's the way you can get rid of the 24/7 title as well.
Yeah,
because you can eventually Roman go, what the hell is this?
Yeah, get rid of it. I don't want that in my stable.
And then and Sammy gets pissed off, and then they kind of beat Sammy up, and then the title's just vacated and then disappears. I think that would be a genius way to continue the storyline with the Bloodline and also get rid of the 24/7 title in a meaningful. That is
100% what I want to happen. I want to see it tonight.
I don't know. I doubt they'll do it, but I because where do you go from Dana Brooke suddenly in a 24/7 title segment getting pinned by Sami Zayn? Something I don't know. I don't know how you get there, but I mean, you could.
Yeah, you can have.
You could just have him turn up on Raw on Monday.
Just have him roll up
Dana Brooke, and then go.
Dana Brooks comes on to SmackDown to fight Ronda. Ronda destroys her, and then Sami Zayn sneaks out.
I like the idea of Sami Zayn turning up at Raw because the champion's there.
Yeah,
literally rolling Ronda up, and then the rest of the Bloodline picking him up in the car and then just driving off. Like they literally don't see him until SmackDown, and then Sami Zayn comes out with the title. Like something like that would be cool.
Yeah, that's what I want to see happen next. But this is so intriguing. When this happened, I was like, well, I don't understand how they're going to make this work. I'm still not sure how they're going to make it work. I think it's a very interesting one, a very hard one. There's no obvious like direction because you can't have Solo lose because he's now, so he's not going to lose without anytime soon, surely, as member of the Bloodline.
Yeah.
So NXT just going to lose a second champion for a while. But what this does do is this frees up Carmelo Hayes either for the NXT title or for main roster because he is ready. Carmelo Hayes
is ready, but I feel like he should win he should be the NXT champion before he goes up.
Yeah,
and he's the perfect. But we haven't had Braun v Carmelo really yet, have we?
Can you see Carmelo confront the Bloodline? Being like, why are you set up on my show winning my belt with me? He turns up on SmackDown tonight and it's like, what's going on?
I doubt it, but it's not impossible. It's not.
So what?
I feel like Wesley still needs to get his revenge yet as well. So I think
you're probably.
I feel like there's
Wesley,
still
Carmelo,
stuff to do on NXT for Carmelo yet. But I do think he's definitely ready. Like he's been ready for ages because he's so
basically
good.
ready since he debuted, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's great. But yeah, I think you can still wait a little bit longer. I don't want them to call up too many people, and I think there's people that need to go up before he does that have kind of gone stale in NXT.
Yeah, but right, but yeah, very interesting main event, but potentially more interesting is what we saw after the main event. And this is my top mark, mainly for what I think this is going to represent going forward. I don't think this one itself is a top mark, but the significance of it could be is we had a little video package. Shawn Michaels just saying about NXT and he mentioned developmental again. He mentioned just how great it was and just, bigging up the brand. And then at the end, we had the NXT 2.0 logo change into black, gold and white, but black and goldish.
Yeah, it was basically the old NXT.
2.0 removed from the logo, no more 2.0. Yeah. And to me, this, Triple H always wanted a third brand. That's what he built NXT into. And it got taken away from him. And I feel like we might be going back to a third brand. I think
it'll still be kind of developmental because the roster they've got and the people they've signed.
Yeah, it's not going to be an overnight change.
I feel like it's still going to be a developmental brand, but presented more seriously.
Yeah.
I
miss the most actually is the old arena, the NXT 2.0, NXT black and gold, how it was presented, of like the crowd were like blackened out a bit, and it just looked, the aesthetics of it were amazing. And I'm not a big fan of the aesthetics of 2.0 arena. It's just a bit bright and colourful. It's just a bit much. And I'm so excited. This happened and I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, give me black and gold NXT again. Make it exactly, well, not exactly, but the way it was booked before and the prominence of it, and Triple H having his way, and Shawn Michaels, thinks like Triple H, I believe. So I think this is a real positive. I mean, NXT Black and Gold was my favorite brand for a while. I think it was your favorite brand for a little bit. It was the best wrestling on TV for a little while. 6 months to a year, maybe it was best wrestling on TV. And I'm just so excited about what this could potentially mean. I would love to see my dream is to have a third brand and have it maybe not, level. I want 3 brands. I want it level with NXT, with SmackDown and Raw. And you just have, you move like Sami Zayn to NXT and have him. And, who knows what's going to happen. We don't know about any drafts coming up. But to me, and maybe I'm getting carried away, but to me, this change, it's a clear change back. It's a clear change to go back to what they had before. And there's a reason it's not called NXT 3.0 and he hasn't changed.
Yeah.
He's reverted back to old.
It's definitely reverting back to what he wants because he clearly, that was his brand, and
Can you imagine Vince at home now, sat there like, are you taking a piss? You've brought back all the people I didn't want. Now you're changing back NXT to how it was.
Yeah, well, that's what happens, I guess.
He is. I mean, we said there'd be subtle changes with Triple H. He is making in-your-face, obvious changes. 2 months ago, Dakota Kai was released. Now she's a champion in WWE on the main roster.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
The changes have been big, and there's more to come, I'm pretty sure. Like, so yeah, so excited. And just as an off, we saw on Twitter, Oney Lorcan tweet the logo. Don't know what that means. Is Oney Lorcan coming back? Don't really.
No, I think he was just kind of like, this is cool that this is back. I don't think it.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. But I was just like, oh, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
But I wonder though whether he might bring back some old NXT guys.
He might, but I don't feel like they need any. Like you just mentioned, the roster being a bit over.
Lorcan and
NXT
Birch are hardly
UK
needed, are they?
I don't feel like they need more people really, because they've got more people coming.
Another thing to bear in mind though is we have NXT Europe coming up, and maybe he can move some of the NXT guys to NXT Europe. Maybe the Lash Legends and
well, I would have thought
Von Wagner's
UK
in the world.
guys and
yeah, but you know he had American guys on NXT.
He did
UK.
occasionally.
I just think, and now I'm thinking about it, and this is literally on the cuff. NXT Europe could become developmental, and NXT could then become the third brand.
Yeah, maybe.
And you could, but the only thing that makes you not think that is Shawn Michaels did mention developmental in his
yeah, I feel like it's still
package.
going to be developmental, not a third brand, but I feel like it's going to be a bit of I feel like it's going to be an in between the two brands, really.
Because we had a Survivor Series.
NXT Black and Gold.
We had a Survivor Series with 3 brands.
Yeah,
and you know, if we could get back to the Survivor Series,
but I don't think the talent pool that was on NXT Black and Gold now. Like if NXT had that talent, they'd be on the. I think they'd just be on the main roster under Triple H.
Yeah, but
I don't think Triple H would waste time trying to put them in developmental.
Yeah, but could you not move? Because we've seen a few.
I know you got like Apollo down there.
Yeah, but we've seen a few. We've seen Natalia and
yeah,
AJ and Ziggler move to NXT for short periods.
Short periods, yeah.
Could he move like I say, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens back to NXT for a bit? Finn Balor did it for a little while. I think there are. Again, I don't think you wouldn't move a Roman or a Drew to NXT, but you know the next tier down. I think you could. I don't think it's mad that you see the Miz on NXT or someone like that. I just think there's enough talent for 3 brands.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, NXT is a third brand. I know it's developmental, but you know, we don't. I guess we do think of it a bit less as main roster, don't we? We don't think of it.
I do definitely now.
Yeah, it has been for the last year, but interesting year anniversary. We're going back, so next week's NXT. I'm interested to see what changes there are.
It's not going to be yet because they've taped the final few episodes of NXT 2.0.
Oh, okay.
So I know there's been tapings because there's spoilers out, which I haven't seen luckily yet, any of them. But so I know they're going to do, because obviously it's going to take time for them to change everything around the set and how it looks. So I'm assuming they'll go live with a big new episode in a few weeks. I don't know how many they've recorded, at least 2 or 3, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not going to be next week. It's going to be a few weeks away. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's still interesting. Still very excited about the future of NXT, and that's why it's my top mark, because I'm just excited about what it means.
Yeah, it's cool, definitely
going forward. Cool. Anything else from NXT?
No,
shall we
let's
wrap it up there?
It's been a long one.
Yeah, this has been a long one.
We've still got AEW to do, yeah.
We do. So that is a good point. This is our WWE review. Check out our YouTube, Recharge Wrestling. Search us on YouTube if you're not already watching this to find our AEW review of the past week in Rampage and Dynamite, which will be recording shortly. Follow us on Twitter as well at Recharge Wrestle. You know, we like to tweet after shows when big things happen. We obviously tweet out our content we produce. We do predictions around pay-per-views, PLEs if you're new to Recharge. So there's a lot to get involved with, and we're always up for interaction. So don't hesitate to get in contact with us, because we love chatting wrestling, as you can tell from the last hour or so. So yeah, check us out there, and we'll be back next week for another WWE pod. See you guys.
Bye.